You know, I was listening to stories being told, and I had a chance to talk to a couple of crews yesterday when I was with you about removing the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And then tell a story about the young man who was involved and what he observed.
Yeah, out at the Goose Wing site, we had over 8,000 feet of fence, 10 feet high. The barbed wire that was on the top had already been removed. The Forest Service didn't believe we were going to get that fence down this week. They really didn't think that that was going to happen. By the end of Monday, there was less than 200 feet of fence. We found a better way to roll it and move it than they had been doing the last 3 years with volunteer groups trying to take that down. So by Tuesday, we had completely removed that. That evening, one of the participants observed an elk running through where the enclosure area had been just 2 days before. And the whole purpose of that was to open up the migration route for elk and antelope and other wildlife in the Goose Wing area. So we saw the results of the project the first night. And subsequently I've talked to people, and they've seen anywhere up to a half dozen elk walking through that area. So we've made a difference. Something that if the folks coming out on a weekend, you know, would work a section, it might be 3 or 4 years before that fence was down.
Yeah.
We did it in less than 2 days.
Pretty amazing. I know the other stories I heard were people walking along the trails while we're working on them and thanking the crew members and telling them how much they appreciated it. And then hearing the young man relate that story was really very meaningful to me.
Absolutely. And we've heard that from many different sources, members of the community. Had the opportunity to talk to the executive director of Friends of Pathways, who's been a partner with us here earlier this morning. And he's saying there's a large group of people that are already planning to go down Arrow Trail on Saturday. So the community's behind it. The significant impact to recreation opportunities in the Bridger-Teton Forest that we've made just in Teton Pass is a tremendous accomplishment. One of the Forest Service members told us earlier this week, if we were working on Teton Pass through our normal process of bringing in volunteers, it would take us 10 years to do what the Order of the Arrow did this week.
Amazing.
So 1,000 motivated, energetic, hardworking youth and adults can make a difference.
Talk about each of the projects. Just go through each of the projects and what was accomplished and what they're going to mean to the community like you just did on that one.
Mm-hmm. Well, Teton Pass, there's 5 different trail sections to that. It's about 10 miles of trail that we're going to be completed. And we'll complete all of the projects with the exception of a couple switchbacks up on the Ridge Trail, which going into this, we knew because of the steepness and the technical construction that has to take place for mountain bike switchbacks that we might not be able to complete that. But in addition, the Forest Service has additional trails that they want us to start putting cuts in so that they can continue to work on that. So we're going to surpass our 10 miles of trail in that area. And it's an important part of the project. One of our objectives when we started ArrowCorps5 was to reflect the priorities of the forest. And unmanaged recreation is one of those 4 priorities. We're able to construct separate trail for mountain bikers so that they can be separated from horseback users. The Forest Service has a multiple use mission, so they have to try to accommodate all of the different user groups. By separating trail, we channel the impact and we create a safer environment for the people that are using it. The other 2 projects are quite diverse. Goose Wing, the primary project there was the exclosure fence area. And we removed that, as I said, you know, in less than 2 days, 8,000 plus feet of fence removed. We moved to our second set of projects that we had in our hip pocket with the Forest Service. There was additional fence in that area to be removed. We blocked access into the Grovant area wilderness, which is just maybe 50 feet off the trail. So there's been a lot of unauthorized use in there, off-road vehicles driving into the wilderness. We created barriers And then we started rehabilitating the ruts from the constant use of motor vehicles going into the wilderness. And we had similar projects out at the Grovant site. We also restored a beautiful, beautiful campsite at Soda Lake. The whole Grovant valley out there is really pristine. It's one of the favorite places for a lot of the locals to go to get away. And so by working on the campsites, improving the ecology by removing the fences, preserving the wilderness experience, we've made a significant difference here in the community.
Talk a little bit about the special project that you had to come up with for those that we felt needed to be off the trail but still could do some work.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had about 20 plus folks that, because of varying medical conditions, we were not comfortable with them being up at 8,000, 9,000 feet elevation working on trail. So myself, Mike Cavallero from our logistics staff, Leslie Williams, Doc Hobbs, our medical officer, we sat down at lunch, and within 45 minutes we had to find another project. One of the huge priorities for this forest, as well as many others, is the risk of fire and reducing that risk. They had an area that buffers the developed and urban area and the forest. A lot of trees in there were killed by beetle. So local people can come in with the right permit and cut firewood, but they leave a lot of the branches and slash. As that dries out, that becomes a huge fire and tinder source. We went in and we started creating brush piles that later this fall, after the first snow, the Forest Service will come back and burn those piles. So we'll remove the fuel supply so that if there is a forest fire, and as it's approaching the developed areas, there'll be a natural fire break there. So it'll be easier to fight the fire, easier to keep it from developed areas. Within the week, probably 4 days, well 3 days, that those folks went out on that project, we constructed over 200 burn piles. It's roughly about 15 acres along the Fall Creek Trail and another 2 acres down in Granite Creek. And we're actually putting the burn piles in a Girl Scout camp. And the forest told us that they've been trying to get that work done for a number of years, but they just haven't been able to do it. We went out and we got 2 acres done just yesterday.
I was amazed when we went out yesterday to see just how much slash had been pulled out of that area and piled along the road. There must have been 4 or 5 miles there that we drove down, that just constant piles of debris and slash that was pulled out of the forest.
Tremendous, tremendous effort. Yeah, over 200 of those, and I believe we probably didn't find some of them.
And these were with people that we were worried about doing work up at the altitude that otherwise might have been here at base camp.
Yeah, and the first day they were at base camp, and they weren't a real happy lot. They wanted to be out providing service in the forest. When we went in and we announced that we had a project, that the medical doctor was comfortable with them, every one of them was shaking their head, yes, and they were excited. They went out the next day at 9 a.m. We had to pull them back early because we needed the transportation for the other projects. They complained that they didn't have enough time to work. And the next morning they left at 6:30 and they worked a full day. Not one complaint. They just enjoyed the opportunity and their ability to contribute and provide service to the forest.
You know, one of the things that I've